They took my name before they took my blood. I was on the metal table again. Data cables pierced the port at the base of my skull. This was calibration. They called it calibration. The audio didn't come through the speakers. It came through the cable. Directly into my brain. I couldn't close my ears. I couldn't turn away.
Permanent serialization of alpha-3 and gamma-7. Extract alpha-3's lionaftic energy. Route it through gamma-7's neural accipal texture. Convert it into a form the completed soldiers can absorb directly. Gamma-7's consciousness will be suppressed to minimum levels. She won't die. She'll become a socket. Alpha-3 will remain trapped in an extraction loop. Perpetual rage state. Perpetual energy output. Perpetual.
Her cortisol is elevated, requesting microadjustment.
Do it.
The cable warmed against my skull. Whatever they pushed through it tasted like static and aluminum. I stared at the light. I thought about the word socket. The way Wolf said it. Like he was describing a new model of charging dock. Like I was already furniture.
Gamma-7, report your perceptual state.
Stable.
Emotional state?
Stable. I lay there while they unplugged me. The word socket had stopped hurting. It had turned into something else. A blueprint. I would make every person in this building need a socket of their own. And then I would unplug them all.
They brought Rain in for paired calibration the next morning.
Sit.
Righty sat.
We're running a low-grade rage induction today. He was new. The last one had requested a transfer after Rain had smiled at him during a bone marrow extraction. Alpha-3 will enter Stage 2 aggression. Gamma-7, you will deploy calming protocols. Efficiency will be measured.
I'm not doing that.
Alpha-3, your refusal is currently causing harm to Gamma-7.
He pressed a button on his tablet.
The metal table under me hummed. Then it bit. Electricity crawled up my spine and into my teeth. My jaw locked. I couldn't scream. I just vibrated against the restraints, every muscle firing at once, my vision whiting out at the edges. It stopped.
Turn it off!
Cooperate first.
I turned my head. Rain's eyes weren't brown anymore. The pupils had gone vertical, amber bleeding in from the edges. Rain, do it! It's fine!
Close your eyes.
I closed them. The sound of metal screaming. 6 guards, 2 syringes of high-concentration sedative, and a hand around my throat.
That was what it took to put Ryan down. The first syringe went into his thigh. He kept moving.
The second went into his neck. His knees hit the floor, but his eyes stayed on me. Vertical pupils. Amber. Wild. The guard's fingers tightened on my windpipe.
Stand down, Alpha-3, or we increase pressure.
He went still like a machine powering off. His chest still humped. His hands, still cuffed, were curled into fists on the concrete. But he stopped fighting. The guards hauled him up and dragged him to the connection station beside my table. They locked his wrist to mine. Metal against metal. Skin against skin. His pulse hit me like a wall.
Pairing calibration complete. Symbiotic link stable. Gamma-7 calming efficiency 97%.
Rain's pulse was still slamming against my wrist. Too fast. It wouldn't slow down.
Gamma-7, report your perception state.
His heart rate is too high. It won't come down.
That's your job. Make it come down. Or next calibration, we increase his dosage.
I laid there on the metal table. The guards stood down. Someone dimmed the lights. Calibration complete. They left us chained together for observation. Rain's breathing evened out. The sedatives were pulling him under. His eyes were closed now. I waited until the observation camera's red light blinked into standby mode. Then I moved. I tapped the metal table leg. Once, twice, 3 times. Where are You. I tapped again, slower. The vibration traveled through the table frame, into the floor, down into the pipes that ran between the levels. I'd mapped the resonance months ago. The isolation sail direct beneath mine had a water pipe that sang at exactly this frequency when struck from above. A pause. Then a response. 3 taps. Faint. Precise. Here. Who? Residue. Residue. That was what they called the survivors of failed serum batches. Not even a designation number. Just waste waiting to be disposed of.
Name?
Silence again. So long I thought she'd gone. Then 4 taps. Kelly. Kelly. Not a number. Not residue. A name she'd kept. They say you die soon. Kelly tapped. They lie. The red light on the camera blinked back on. I went still. My breathing stayed steady. My heart rate on the monitor didn't flicker. When the light died again, I tapped one more time.
3 days, 7 minutes, ready.
The response came after a heartbeat.
2 taps.
Yes. Rain woke 2 hours later. I was sitting up on the edge of my table. He opened his eyes.
What are you doing?
Memorizing.
Memorizing what?
He pushed himself up slowly, the cuff clanging against mine. The chain between us had about 18 inches of give. He sat on the floor, his back against the table leg, looking at me.
You've been awake for 2 hours.
1 hour and 53 minutes.
You counted.
I always count. The observation camera's red light flickered. On, off, on again. Maintenance cycle. It would stay on for the next 20 minutes.
You know the cycle.
I know everything that repeats.
Your heart rate hasn't changed. In 2 hours, it's flat.
I know.
That's not normal.
None of this is normal.
Ivy, what are you planning?
I'm planning to leave, and I'm planning for you to follow me.
Follow you.
Yes.
You.
Yes.
I've kept you alive for 2 years,
I know.
and now you want me to follow you.
I turned my hand over under his. Palm up. His fingers, still curled, now rested in the center of my palm. Yes. Because I'm not asking you to protect me anymore. I'm asking you to trust me.
How long?
3 days. 7 minutes of dock. His fingers curled, not around my hand, into a fist. Then, slowly, they uncurled, and he turned his hand over in mine. Palm to palm.
3 days.
He didn't say anything else about the plan. He didn't ask for details. On the second day, I tapped out the rest of the plan to Kelly through the pipes. On the third day, the guards came early.
Gamma 7. Calibration.
They unlocked my cuff from Rain's and hauled me up. Rain's eyes snapped open.
Where?
Routine. Let go, Alpha 3.
They dragged me down the hall to a different room. Smaller. Darker.
The technician from before was waiting with a syringe.
New serum variant. Nutritional supplement. Hold still.
The needle went into my neck. At first, nothing. Then fire. Not the familiar burn of transformation. This was deeper. It started in my bone marrow and ate its way outward. I didn't scream. I couldn't. My lungs had forgotten how. I don't remember being dragged back to my cage. I remember the concrete floor. Cold. I remember Rain's voice saying my name. Not Gamma 7.
Ivy. Ivy.
Ivy. Over and over.
Ivy.
I remember his hand reaching through the bars. The gap was too small for anything but his fingers. They brushed my shoulder, then my neck, searching for a pulse.
Ivy.
The lights went out. At 02 exactly. I knew because I had been counting the seconds since Rain's hand closed around mine. 1,412. 1,413. The alarm didn't sound. It couldn't. Kelly had shorted the maintenance alert circuit from her level 2 hours ago, tapping confirmation through the pipes. Done. Silent. Rain's hand was still wrapped around mine through the bars. I could feel his pulse hammering.
Fast.
Too fast. The serum they'd injected was still burning in my marrow, but the fire had cooled to something I could think through.
7 minutes.
The gap between our cages opened wide enough for a body. Rain was through it before I could blink. His hands found my face in the dark, thumbs pressed against my temples, checking for fever, checking for life.
I'm here.
His forehead touched mine, just for a second. His breath was ragged.
Never again.
Kelly. Maintenance shaft. East wall. He pulled back. I heard his hand scrape against the concrete wall, finding the seam I'd mapped for him. A grunt. A crack. The panel gave.
Go.
The shaft was narrow. My shoulders scraped both sides. Behind me, Rain's breathing was a steady rhythm, close enough to feel on the back of my neck. Below us, a soft tapping on metal. Kelly. Waiting. We dropped into her level. I couldn't see her, but I felt her presence. Small. Still. A hand brushed my arm. 3 doors. 7 minutes. 4 left.
Then we run.
Together.
4 minutes. Kelly moved like she'd been born in the dark. She led us through the maintenance level without hesitation, her small hand guiding mine around corners I couldn't see. Rain was a wall of heat behind us, his breathing controlled, his footsteps silent despite his size. First door. Kelly pressed something into my palm. A key card. Scratched. Bent. She'd fished it out of the incinerator chout like she'd said. I swiped it. Red light. Denied. Try again. Angle it left. I did. Green. We slipped through. The door sealed behind us with a soft hiss. 2 minutes gone. 5 left. Second door. This one required a code. I didn't have a code. But I had Rain. North corner. The seal is weak. Flood damage last year. He moved past me. I heard his palms press flat against the metal. Then he pushed. The door didn't open. A gap appeared at the corner, widening as Rain's shoulders locked and his whole body became a lever. The metal shrieked, louder than I wanted, but there was no helping it.
Go!
Kelly slipped through first. I followed. Rain came last, squeezing his frame through a space that shouldn't have fit him. The door growled back into place behind us. I grabbed the wheel, pulled. It didn't move. Rain's hands more ones covered mine. Together, we wrenched it left. The seal cracked. Cold air, real air, not recycled, hit my face. 2 minutes. The door opened onto sand. Moonlight.
Run.
We ran. The desert swallowed us. We ran until my legs stopped feeling like legs and started feeling like someone else's broken equipment. Kelly had vanished ahead. Her gift, she'd explained through taps, was not just hiding. It was becoming background. She was already a dune among dunes. Rain stayed at my feel.
How far?
Far enough for a minute. Not far enough for anything else.
They're coming.
How many?
6. Plus Wolf.
Rain turned to face me. The moonlight caught his eyes.
They were already amber. The vertical pupils just beginning to form.
When I tell you to run.
You run.
No.
Ivy,
You said never again. That goes both ways.
I can't hold it back if you're in danger. The rage, it wants to protect you. That's all it wants. And if I let it loose, I don't know if I can come back.
Then I'll call you back.
Call you.
Back. Like this. I reached up, pressed my palm flat against his chest, over his heart. The rhythm was already wrong. Too fast. Too wild. Rain's heart stuttered. Once. Twice. Then it found a new rhythm, still too fast, but steadier. Tethered, his hand came up, covered mine on his chest.
Again? When it gets bad, do that again.
The hum in my skull sharpened. Wolfie was close enough to track. Get ready. They're here. They came over the ridge in formation, 6 shapes against the moon, Wolf at the center. His armor gleamed, his eyes, I could see them even at this distance, were already wolf bright.
Alpha 3, you've exceeded your permitted range. Return to containment and Gamma 7's sedation will be minimized. Gamma 7, your cortisol levels are elevated. This is a waste of energy. Come back, we'll recalibrate.
No.
Interesting. You've developed defiance.
The 6 soldiers fanned out, encircling.
That can be unlearned.
I counted their movements, tracked their positions. My body was still weak from the serum, but my mind was clear. You keep calling us by our numbers. Alpha 3, Gamma 7, like we're entries in a spreadsheet.
You are.
No. I felt Rain's pulse through the link, steady, waiting. We're not. We have a name.
Do you?
Origin! Origin, because you wanted to make us into your endpoint, your perfect weapon. But we're not your ending. We're your beginning. And we're going to unmake everything you built.
Origin. How poetic. Record that in the after option report. Gamma 7 engaged in delusional self-mythigrizing before recapture. Take them.
Rain didn't fight the soldiers. He went through them. The first one went down before he finished raising his weapon. Rain's hand closed on the man's wrist and twisted. Bones snapped. The soldier screamed. Rain was already moving to the second. Wolf was still standing on the ridge, watching me.
Gamma 7. You're not a fighter. You're a conduit.
A socket. Come quietly and I'll ensure Alpha 3 is sedated instead of terminated.
Rain. His head snapped toward me, amber eyes, vertical pupils, blood on his hands. Stay. His chest heaved. Once. Twice. The amber flickered. Brown bled back in.
Fascinating. You're not just a socket, you're a regulator.
He stepped off the ridge, walked toward us. The remaining soldiers parted for him.
That's new. That's valuable. The board will want to study this. We'll run new tests, new extractions.
Give me everything. I took Rain's rage. I reversed the polarity. You wanted a socket. I became one. Locked, but I choose what flows through me. And I choose to flow you backward. His wolf's mouth opened. Not dead. Worse. A howl started. It never finished. Half human. A creature wrapped between shapes with no way forward and no way back. The remaining soldiers ran. We walked away from Wolf's body. I didn't look back. Rain did. Once. Then he faced forward and didn't turn again.
Kelly found us an hour later. She materialized out of the dunes, like she'd been there all along. Maybe she had.
She led us to a way station, an abandoned ranger outpost, half buried in sand. There was water, a radio, a first aid kit. That looked older than me. I sat on the floor and pressed my back against the wall. Rain crouched in front of me. His hands hovered near my face, not touching, checking. I'm fine.
You're shaking.
I'm fine.
You said we have a name.
Origin.
Why?
Because they wanted to be the end of us. The final version. The completed product. But they're not. We're the start of something they can't control. Something they don't get to name.
Origin.
Yes.
The first of our kind.
The first of a lot of kinds. Kelly. The others she told us about? All the residue they threw away. We're gonna find them. And then we're gonna take everything. There's more. I heard the guards talking before the escape. New Moon has other facilities. 6 of them, spread across 3 continents. Then we'll visit all of them.
Who can you reach with it?
Anyone, if you know the right frequencies. We start at dawn. We tell the world what New Zune built, and then we show them what New Zune threw away. The radio crackled. Kelly began to tune it. Outside, the desert stretched silent and endless. The way station became a shelter, not overnight. Nothing good happens overnight. But week by week, month by month, Kelly's radio reached the right ears. Residue from other facilities found their way to us.
Some came on foot. Some came carried by others. All of them had the same look in their eyes. The look of people who had been told they were waste and had decided to be something else.
I watched them arrive from the way station roof. It was the best vantage point. Flat, warm from the sun, high enough to see the desert stretch in every direction. Rain climbed up beside me. He didn't ask if I wanted company. He just sat. Close enough that his arm brushed mine.
The new one? The girl from the Denver facility? She asked your name.
What did you tell her?
Ivy.
Not Origin.
That's not a name. That's what we're building.
Below, the Denver girl was sitting with Kelly. Kelly was teaching her to hide her heartbeat.
You used to be a guide. Before.
Yes.
You took people to mountains, rivers, sunrises.
That was the quiet for a moment.
Below us, someone laughed. A child, one of the younger survivors. She was chasing a lizard between the tents.
Where do you take them now?
Home.
Rain's hand moved. Not fast. Not hesitant. Just certain. His fingers closed over mine where they rested on the warm roof tile. Not a grip. Not a claim. Just his hand on mine. Like it belonged there. I turned my palm up. His fingers slid between mine. We sat like that while the sun finished setting. Morning came without alarms. I woke in the small room we'd claimed. He was on the highest point of the shelter. The old watchtower, rusted ladder, broken railing. A view that went on forever. I climbed up. The metal groaned under my weight, but it held. Rain was standing at the edge, facing east. The horizon was just beginning to pale. I stood beside him. He didn't turn, but his hand found mine. Muscle memory, link memory, both. We watched the sun rise.
I used to think about this, in the cage. What the sun looked like. I'd forget, sometimes. The exact color. And now...
Now I'll never forget again.
The sun cleared the horizon. Full morning, the shelter below was waking up. Voices, movement. Someone was cooking. Someone was laughing.
Rain.
Hmm.
What do we do today?
Live. And then go wherever we want.
Wherever we want.
Yes.
The sun kept rising. The shelter kept waking. And we stood there, two people who had been numbers, watching a world that had tried to break them become something they were building instead. No cages. No sockets. Just mourning. And the rest of our lives.